Beyond the San Andreas Fault, there are 5 scarier fault lines in the United States. These 5 zones are just as scary as the San Andreas Fault, if they're not more so. Contrary to popular belief, this is not the only fault system threatening the imminent disaster of the United States. And we have these 5 scary seismic zones that are just as nerve-wracking as the San Andreas Fault. 1, Cascadia subduction zone. And we know that a lot of pressure is put on this by the Walker Lane fault system that takes up 25% of the pressure of the Pacific tectonic plate subducting underneath the North American plate. And the Walker Lane fault system pushes up into the Cascadia arc and many a time causes pressure there. So the Cascadia subduction zone, by the time Lewis and Clark arrived on the west coast in 1805, it had been 105 years since the Cascadia subduction zone last ruptured, sending a portion of the Pacific Ocean roaring towards the coast. A few remaining Native Americans in the area spoke of the earth shaking and the ocean rising to consume the land. Many tribes even left the region permanently. However, it was not until the discovery of the Cascadia Fault in the 1960s that modern settlers truly understood the dangers they faced. It runs 680 miles along the Pacific Northwest coastline, and the Cascadia Fault directly threatens 3 major metropolitan areas: Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver, Canada. With Cascadia capable of producing a magnitude 9 or even a magnitude 10 earthquake, the Pacific Northwest may soon face shaking 16 times more powerful than the San Andreas devastating 1906 earthquake that lasted 4 minutes and delivered a mighty tsunami of unimaginable proportions. And number 2, the New Madrid seismic zone, which geologists say should be called New Madrid Rift Valley, because the earth is spreading there. New Madrid seismic zone. It's not just the west coast that needs to watch for tectonic obliteration. It's the New Madrid seismic zone, spans southeastern Missouri, northeastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, southern Illinois, and it's the most active earthquake zone east of the Rocky Mountains. Between 1811 and 1812, this zone experienced some of the largest quakes in history. And although they originated in the Mississippi Valley, they rang church bells in Boston and shook New York City, over 1,000 miles away. Even when President James Madison and his wife Dolly reportedly felt shaking at the White House. After one particularly large rupture in the fault, the mighty Mississippi River was forced to run backwards for several hours, devastating acres of forest and creating 2 temporary waterfalls. Fortunately, the Mississippi Valley was sparsely populated back then. Today, millions of people live in densely populated urban areas like St. Louis and Memphis, making this zone one of the biggest concerns for Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Then we have the very little known Ramapo seismic zone, which spans across New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and southern area of New York State. In 1884, Brooklyn was rattled by an earthquake originating near the Ramapo fault system. It toppled chimneys in New York City and was felt as far away as Maine and Virginia. The magnitude 5.2 earthquake was a sudden wake-up call for settlers in the region. Yeah, this was 1884. Running through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, the Ramapo has remained quiet for about 200 years. While studies have shown that a quake greater than 5 or 5.5 magnitude is unlikely, urbanization and the tri-state region leaves the area extremely vulnerable. A mid-magnitude earthquake in the right or worse place could cause devastating damage. One of the faults in the Ramapo system even crossed New York City around 125th Street. A magnitude 5 rupture lasting more than a minute or 2 could cause intense structural damage to numerous Manhattan skyscrapers, most of which are not designed to withstand such tectonic activity. Not even a 5? Well, I know my parents were both architects and working on, of course, skyscraper projects in Manhattan. My mother used to work for the company that made the Empire State Building, and she explained to me why all their buildings are facing sort of pivoted on, they don't, the entrance doesn't face the street, it's pivoted. And I asked her why all those buildings are pivoted. She said because they're all facing the Empire State Building. Okay, but anyway, they told me that most skyscrapers in Manhattan would not be able to withstand a 7 earthquake. But here it says 5. Anyway, God forbid. Now, number 4 is in California, the Hayward Fault, which is part of the San Andreas fault system. It's just east of the San Andreas on the other side of the bay. It's very unstable. It's, the Hayward Fault in California has been threatening the San Francisco Bay Area for generations. It's capable of producing earthquakes ranging from 7 to 8 magnitude. The last major movement along the Hayward Fault occurred October 21st, 1868, virtually destroying downtown Hayward. In fact, it was considered the great earthquake until the San Andreas Fault tore San Francisco apart 38 years later. Running for nearly 74 miles through cities including Fremont, Hayward, Oakland, Berkeley, and Richmond, the Hayward Fault has the potential to wreak havoc than most California faults. There are over 2.4 million people living within close proximity of the fault today, not to mention the key infrastructure developments, including the major public transport system and the cattle cut tunnel, and that run precariously through the fault. Number 5 is the Alaska Denali fault system. If we're talking sheer magnitude, the largest recorded earthquake on North American soil hit Alaska November 3rd, 2002, starting on the Susitna Glacier Thrust Fault. The rupture raced along the Denali Fault and continued 220 kilometers until it reached the Totshunda Fault, rattling 70 more kilometers. The estimated magnitude of this earthquake ranged from 7 to 7.9, with a surface wave magnitude of close to 8.5 magnitude. This almighty quake caused extensive damage to the transportation system in central Alaska. Multiple landslides and rock avalanches occurred in the Alaska Range and Black Rapids Glacier, and this event was literally felt across the nation, even causing waves in pools and lakes, even down in Texas and Louisiana. And this is on Bended Reality, and it's from Assurance. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.